another episode of Burning Platform, and it's a real honor today to have Patrice Cappello. She's managing director at Workday in their verticals. In this case, she heads the professional services. So it's so nice to have you. Welcome.
Thank you, Vinnie. Delighted to be here. Yeah, so as you mentioned, my role is I'm a managing director here at Workday, where I focus on professional and business services as an industry vertical from the go-to-market side of the business. Just to add a little bit more to that, I have been here at Workday for 7 years in this role, but I've been focused on this industry relative to deploying technology to drive business outcomes for 25 years. So I think we can say it's safe to that I'm a student of the industry and have many years of experience watching this industry evolve over time.
So you've seen Accenture Anderson become Accenture. You've seen all the evolution.
I have. I hate to date myself, but yes, I have.
The whole professional services sector keeps evolving, right? I mean, I came from the Pricewaterhouse world. You've obviously seen many different firms change. But it used to be mostly software vendors dealt with systems integrators, right? Now you have strategy firms that are defining strategy for clients. You've got hyperscalers, you've got managed services firms. The whole landscape has changed dramatically, right? So, and then, even in the manufacturing sector, they're finding service revenue is more sticky than product revenue. So even they're getting into their form of services. Talk in terms of Workday's focus in this big, ever-changing landscape.
Absolutely. I have seen a lot of change. And one thing I'm sure you would agree with, the change just continues to accelerate. So we all know we're living in a services-based economy. So we absolutely see other industries like manufacturing, as you mentioned, want to evolve into services business as well, because as you mentioned, services revenue tends to be a higher margin for business and more predictable revenue. So we've seen a lot of firms coming into this space. Workday as an industry, we focus exclusively on pure play professional services and business services firms. And really what that means to us, just to break that down a little bit, is industries that are where people are delivering the revenue. And that is the majority of how they drive revenue for their business. So we have other industries at Workday that we go to market in, but specifically in professional and business services, we have several sub-industries that roll up to professional and business services. And you mentioned a few, Vinnie. I mean, management consulting has been around a long time, but IT services has turned into an IT consulting, a huge business. We also include in that public accounting firms, BPOs, business process outsourcing firms, staffing firms. So, the common thread is that the people are driving the revenue for the business, which creates common challenges and, transformation requirements for businesses. But essentially, it's the people, the way we define the market for Workday.
People and revenue sounds like people, projects, revenue. So talking about that, let's talk about features a little bit. Given all these changes in the specific vertical that you have, how has the feature set grown? Talk a little bit about how your product has grown for your industry.
Yes. What Workday offers today as a platform, when we talk about platform in this industry for Workday, we're talking about managing your people and talent, managing your projects and your delivery, and managing your financials all on that same platform. So it's a very unique offering in the sense that people are doing this all in one cloud and really being able to open up new capabilities to the business, given that all of the information about your operations are being managed in Workday. So we refer to those set of capabilities for our industry as PSA, which is Professional Services Automation. It's not a Workday term. It's been around since the late 90s, and it's really around managing your supply and your demand, right? They have a lot of the same requirements that, let's say, a manufacturer would around inventory, just in time, How do I turn that raw material into finished goods to get a finished product out to the customer? It's all those same concepts, but really PSA came around as a solution set that was, because the services business, you're dealing with people and your inventory are your hours. And so being able to, or enabling firms to be able to manage that supply and demand, while there's a lot of commonality, there's a lot of uniquenesses because it's people and hours. So in Workday, we have developed a really world-class solution around PSA. And the really unique thing about the offering for this market is that that's all part of one single solution. And it's really fun to watch business leaders kind of understand what it means to be able to manage all that in the single solution. Very unique.
Now, do you look at the revenue side also? Are you into CPQ, proposal engines, and stuff like that as part of this?
Yeah, so we continue to develop. We always like to say our roadmap is never zero, right? In every feature in Workday, we're always innovating, and the same is very true for our PSA capabilities. So we have developed we're actually expanding the definition of what PSA means, kind of breaking up the market definition a little bit or making it broader. And one of the areas we're particularly investing in right now is around services CPQ. And what makes that unique is it's a configure, price, quote tool, but it's designed for services companies. And this represents an issue that's been around in this market for a long time, is that you would oftentimes have technology solutions that were not designed for services business. So firms had to kind of make things work and customize a lot. So in this case, our services CPQ is designed for services-based businesses, and what it's doing and what we're enabling our customers to do as they adopt those component parts of PSA is to really more tightly connect the sales and delivery. And every services firm knows that it's been a challenge to get those two functions to be really tightly connected. So what our customers are saying is like, well, we now can use firm sanction rates in the system so that we can ensure when we're building up quotes, we're using the actual rates that are allowed by the firm and looking at margins in advance of quoting that work and determining if that margin is in alignment with what the firm guidance is. And then even so far as to putting that quote into our business process framework to move it to the different functions that may need to approve it or at least have eyes on it. And then that ultimately in best practice world becomes your baseline quote. So now your delivery is highly connected to what your salespeople were selling during the pursuit of that. But we are definitely breaking the definition up to mean a lot broader set of capabilities than what was known back in the 90s and since then when it first became a thing.
So while we're talking functionality, you obviously your Extend platform, Workday's Extend platform has been maturing nicely. Are you finding your professional services customers using that to come up with unique extensions? Or are they constantly, Patrice, you deliver it as part of the standard solution?
Yes. Yeah, so it has been really fun. I mentioned I've been here 7 years to watch the maturity and the evolution of Extend and seeing customers adopting that in real life and being able to do some things that are either unique to that business, part of what they might consider their secret sauce in how they run their business and their operations, to just, being able to enhance and make processes better, more comprehensively across the firm. Vinnie, like in terms of Workday, we are a true cloud multi-tenant solution. So we will never be able to develop everything that every customer wants or that is unique to their business. However, we do have, our customers are able to configure the solution very heavily to fit what their unique requirements are, but sometimes there's just things out of scope that are not going to land on a Workday roadmap. And so we've seen customers doing some really cool things with Extend. And one of the use cases that I've seen that I love, that a few customers have developed for themselves, is when they are developing that scope of work in that pursuit process, many times the proposal that has to go to the customer needs to have the CVs of the, the proposed project team. So we've seen customers building an app to just create those CVs. And think of all the hours of manual work that companies put in to pull those final proposals together, and being able to press a button and say, go ahead and generate the CVs, which will be an addendum or a portion of that final proposal. So that's an example of one where customers have gotten super creative and we're able to create more automation and less manual hours in pursuit of new business. We've also developed something, Vinnie, which is really neat, is these innovation awards for our customers. We did it last year for the very first time for our industry. And it's a neat concept that Workday has been doing for a few years, but essentially we ask our customers to submit proposals if they want to participate in the contest, I guess, if you will, is the right word. And sometimes it's taking the native Workday functionality and doing something super creative and outside the box, but have done something really cool for the business inside the Workday tenant. And in other cases, they're using Extend to build those apps as well. And I said, as I mentioned, something that might be unique to them. So it's been really exciting to go through this innovation award process, I apologize. Actually developed 4 or 5 different categories, and customers could make a choice whether they wanted to be part of it, and then put submissions in there that describe what they did, the uniqueness of it, what it looks like, and then the value back into the business. So it's a super fun process to really get in there and see what our customers are doing beyond what the scope is that we often just talk about in the evaluation process. So, and the other really neat thing about it is it wasn't just me and my team making that decision, it was our customers that voted on the winners. So that was the best part of it all. And so we were super excited. One of the award winners was Crossview, where they used native Workday functionality to be able to create dashboards for the billable worker to be able to track things like their progress towards their target utilization rates and what that looks like in the future, and giving them the information to just ensure that they're making better informed decisions relative to their own productivity. And so that was really cool to see. And Cognizant, as you mentioned, was an example of really simplifying within the business how I believe it was using Extend, simplifying the whole business process relative to getting contracts, getting the right eyes on the contracts, getting those approved, set up, and then ready to go relative to the live contract and project. So that was really exciting to see as well. We had other winners as well, but we really are excited to do that again this year, coming for the fall and rising.
You know, you go back to your Extend thing. I'm going to date myself now. When I was at Pricewaterhouse, we were one of the early adopters of Lotus Notes. And guess what the single biggest popular application was? Every office had its list of favorite diners and restaurants. As you can imagine, in that business, you travel all the time, so it's always nice to have who your peers recommend you go eat at. So kind of interesting. Yeah. I think Extend is much more powerful than a restaurant Yelp.
Yes.
So let's change this a little bit. You know, you obviously have these firms as your customers. Hmm? But Workday also has a lot of partners, right? I mean, many of your customers use these very firms for their implementations. Talk about that dynamic. You know, how do you manage the tension is probably not the right word, but in effect, you want to treat them nicely as customers. On the other hand, you got to watch out on what they're doing on the delivery side. So talk a little bit about that dynamic.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, obviously, this happens in this industry where the ecosystem of the technology solutions provider, there are going to be services businesses. So you're going to be having the discussions around their implementation side of the business as well as potential customers. I will tell you, Vinnie, we never got off that easy to say Workday automatically won because they had a Workday practice. So for each of these systems integrators, as they've gone through their own transformation, it's been a head-to-head evaluation for almost all of those. in terms of we were competing against the folks that we compete against normally in this market, and have ultimately been awarded those that have gone this path. But I would say that the benefit to the systems integrators that have their own practice, for them is they've lived it as a services firm, right? They understood what the transformation took, what had to be included in that transformation, what lessons were learned, and what they would do differently or better the next time. So they're their own best reference, to be honest, in many cases, and they're able to use that when they focus on this industry as a real life story. And they also have their executives available oftentimes to talk to prospective executives as what the experience is going to be like and what they need to factor into this change and how they're going to backfill roles that have to focus on the project, all kinds of things that go into that. So there's the motivation to do that. But I will say, we never would have been able to compete effectively if we didn't have the world-class PSA capabilities that we've had, as well as HCM financials, and then the Extend capabilities as well. And then relative to the partnership, I would say it's somewhat a distinct relationship. So we on the industry team focus on them as a customer, their success. We take their input as we do all of our customers relative to the investments that we're going to make in products and how to prioritize those. But then they'll have tight relationships with our global organization that manages our ecosystem. And oftentimes those will cross paths and we'll be in each other's meetings. But it is really two different organizations managing both sides of that relationship. And I wish I could say we're an automatic choice for anyone that has a Workday practice, but we still got to go out and fight the good fight and really get selected based on what we bring to the table.
Vice versa, right? I'm sure customers ask you and say, who would you recommend as a partner? And you got to be, there are 6 options for you, right? You don't automatically go with Deloitte or whatever. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that's the way it should be, right? Let the market decide, not play favorites.
Exactly. Yep.
Please, we've got to talk about AI. We can't have a conversation anymore without AI, right? And generative AI, large language models and all that, are revolutionizing a lot of industries, especially labor-intensive industries, right?
Yeah.
It's a scary time for many of them because they see machines replacing them. Others are excited because it enhances their capabilities significantly. Talk about how you are helping customers in professional services, think of new use cases, show them the positives of Gen and other AI.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's fascinating when I talk to leaders of our customer firms and our prospective customer firms, how they're thinking about that and how it's going to enhance their ability to do business. We don't generally talk about it in terms of headcount reduction. What they're really looking to do is eliminate or minimize those low value activities that you kind of have to do. Part of that in this industry relates back to what I mentioned in the beginning about a lot of systems were not designed over the last X number of decades for services-based businesses. So firms ended up in a position where they had highly customized environments, highly fragmented environments. And so things like AI and ML were a dream, right? They were typically not even able to uptake, any of the enhancements coming from that vendor once it was so highly customized. So in Workday, we're unique because I said we're, that single tenant multi-cloud true environment where customers are always on the same version and there's one version of the software. So once you get your firm in a position like that, as a customer of Workday, you're able to uptake all the innovations that we're doing. And we're just doing tons around AI, ML, and Gen AI. And what's been especially fun is to see this industry going through the transformations to get to a point where they're sitting on an architecture that allows them to adopt this new and really cool business-changing technology. And so we look at it at Workday in terms of it's part of our core intelligent foundation. And we are building the large language models and exposing them to customers. So it's a better user experience because they don't have to go out and buy a solution and then plug it in everywhere across all these different systems. We are building it and exposing it. And we have lots of horizontal solutions, like great examples that lots of people talk about in finance would be like smart cash cash receipts application, right? Like if you could get 90% of that work done, right, and just deal with the exceptions, then you're in a better place. But we also, because professional services is a strategic industry for Workday, we have teams that are thinking about and developing around where in that operational piece or the PSA piece that's going to be game changing for these customers. And some of the examples as we're building resource management, looking at, machine learning to suggest a project team, like who is the optimal delivery team based on what dimensions. Like if you look at resource managers in our business, they are superheroes. All the dimensions of data that they have to factor in to put together that, perfect team for delivery for a customer, it takes a lot to get all those factors in place to deliver that team. And so the more you can enhance their experience to say, here's what I think as the machine, what the optimal team would be for this client, and then you're not starting from a blank sheet of paper. That's a key use case for this industry for us. And then there's other things, to your point, Vinnie, like we could, one of the things you're always saying, well, we've got reports for project managers to look at what's your budget, what's your burn rate, and are there anything going red? You can do that in today's technology, right? But you have to hope the project manager's going in, checking it, and then they know what to do about it. Versus adding intelligence to that process, and the way we're looking at it is, can you proactively letting them know that you're burning labor at 50% compared to budget for this project, yet you're only 25% complete. Other projects that have gone this path have ended up with this particular margin. So it's taking that, that wealth of data that you have historically that you hope your people are looking at, but you can't always assume they are, and serving that up to make better proactive decisions. So we're always looking at it across the board, but those are two key areas that we're focused on for professional services customers.
So Patrice, we've covered a lot of ground. Any other things any other secret things you haven't talked about?
Yeah, I think some of the industries that we serve under professional services, there's going to be different operational systems. It's not always going to be PSA. For example, like a business process outsourcing firm, if they are a CX center for a customer, a call center, they're going to have telephony systems and other operational systems. And it's never our goal, Vinnie, to try to replace those sort of operational systems. Where we focus PSA for our customers are very specific to project-based or contract-based customers. But what we do is, in cases where there's other operational systems, is wrapping the Workday solution around that to enhance the capabilities of the operation system. And really what we deliver that is just game-changing for these firms is you're managing cost and revenue in the same system, whether you have a different operational system or Workday's PSA, and then managing supply and demand. It's just a beautiful thing in one system. Data isn't moving all over the place and getting dropped or lost. And my enthusiasm has not dampened one bit since coming to Workday when I saw the platform and said, this is the platform for the future of this industry.
Well, Patrice, I learned a lot from last 20 minutes or so. You narrowed the market down. You've defined specific services you want to go after. You didn't mention the whole industrial sector, which is a hot sector unto itself. What you're going after. I love the fact that your PSA has been extended with CPQ, right? People love revenue-centric applications.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
not just about helping them account for resources, but also help them with revenue. The extend use cases you talked about, are allowing people to do a lot of stuff with your platform rather than another third-party environment. And then the whole AI applied to resource management, not just HR or finance. Also really encouraging. So I've learned a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinnie. It's been delightful to have this conversation with you. I think you can feel my passion coming through for this industry and how much technology can enable for these firms.
Patrice, we should have this once a year. You can update me
I would
on
love that.
new stuff that's coming on, all the new innovation awards you've given out. I'm sure your partners are constantly being creative. So come talk about a couple more firms next year.
Oh, thank you for the invite. I will absolutely take you up on that.
Thank you.